physical activity. Been doing modified fungo golf, and we actually play kickball golf.
Okay.
Because the little ones can't fungo or really do the frisbee very well. So we got these kickballs, and we go to the park and we just pick out random trees as holes. And, we actually race from spot to spot. So
Nice.
It's been a neat little game we've developed.
All right. What's going on, guys? Happy Monday. Hope you guys had a good weekend. Today's call kind of presentation is geared around kind of transitioning from different environments. So whether that's your facility, whether that's your travel team, high school team, college team, professional team, there's a lot of different kind of, arenas that as players that we're in, not only to try to showcase ourselves to continue to move up, but also to, be coachable, be a good teammate, empower others and things like that. So that's kind of the gist of this whole call. We've got Nelson Gord on, who's going to kind of kick it off for us. He's been a high school coach. He runs a travel organization. He's owned facilities. He's got, experience from every side of it. Rich Benjamin's on with us again. If you guys remember him from last week, gave a great talk. Today, he's from Indiana Wesleyan, if you weren't on last week. And we've also got Ben Broussard, who spent a lot of time in the big leagues. He's the hitting coordinator for the White Sox right now. And he's done everything from mental skills to hitting and obviously playing as well. And he's kind of got some cool stories for us as well. So, Nelson, I'll kind of turn it over to you and let you kind of kick it off and talk about some of the challenges, you faced kind of working in all those arenas.
Sure. Coming out of being a player and going through that path and then going right into coaching, you learn a lot how to be pretty resourceful in a lot of different ways. I started out just giving lessons kind of on the side with a bucket of balls and a tee. Then once I was in a facility setting, you'd have access to digital cameras. We really didn't have some of the high resolution stuff that we have now, but that was a big step in like the advent of Right View Pro and some other softwares that came out. But then stepping back and being a freshman coach for a year, you learn how to deal with 18 beat up baseballs to practice with and a set of cones. And I think that's the big thing is whether you're a player or a coach, just being adaptable and being agile and learning that you can benefit in every setting and not getting stuck so much in your ways. And I think that's one of the things that you probably see, at the professional level with guys that you work with, guys that are young kids that are coming from the different academies in the Dominican and different places from the inner cities, and then you got the affluent kids that have access to everything, but trying to get everybody on the same page and trying to meet them where they're at and bring them along with the tools that you have provided to you is a skill that, I think every coach has to have, and they can't be stuck in their ways, because what happens when their computer breaks down, or what happens when, they lose that bucket of balls, what happens when they don't have a cage to work out of and, they just have an open field. So just as in every other industry, the ability to adapt and overcome those things is absolutely key.
Awesome. What do you think, some of the challenges the players have, kind of going back and forth, especially, running a travel organization and being a high school coach at the same time, not every, correct me if I'm wrong, I'm assuming not everybody on your high school team, played for that summer team necessarily. Obviously in both scenarios, like we're there for the athlete, like we care about the athlete. We're trying to help the athlete, it's about them, not us. What were some of the challenges as a coach that maybe athletes made challenging unintentionally? So, maybe they just didn't know better, or they had kind of different ideas type thing.
Sure. Being a high school coach is far more challenging, in my opinion, than running a travel program, for the sole fact that you wear way more hats, right? You're in part a counselor, you're checking on eligibility, you're doing field maintenance, you're trying to make sure buses are on time. There's so much admin that goes into it that is totally unrelated to baseball. And I think a lot of kids now more than ever are used to getting that one-on-one attention and having someone look over their shoulder and give them instant feedback. So figuring out ways to be creative and give them what they need, but at the same time helping them understand that in this setting, in this environment, This is about winning ball games, making sure the team's prepared, and some of your personal goals and everything. That's what you work on outside of the 2.5, 3 hours of practice. That's what you need to bear down on in your garage, in your backyard, with your buddies during extra work, because there's a clear cut difference between the individual aspect of a travel sport or being in an academy setting, and then being on a high school or college, baseball field.
Yeah, I think that's important for players to recognize, because we've all heard it. We're kind of in a players like to, what do they say? Misery loves company. So as soon as something doesn't go wrong, or you sit the bench or do something else, it's always somebody else's fault. And obviously, we're trying to empower athletes to take responsibility. One thing we talked about is fair doesn't always mean equal. I think I actually took that from you, Nelson. I think you were the one I heard say that. But in terms of, something that I think players in all environments can understand is where the leadership is and some of the challenges the leadership has in that and what kind of the roles are there. And I think it's tough. I don't think players always pick up on that. It's almost that like, this is all about me and my experience and why didn't that coach help me in there. And there's obviously we do as much as we can in each environment to help them in those specific times. But I thought that was really well said. So Rich, I'm going to kind of kick it back over to you. You and I had an interesting conversation a couple of days ago about kind of the strengths of the environment and each environment. I thought you had some really good insight there on that side of things to kind of discuss if you want to start with that. You're still muted.
Yeah, Ryan, I think the other day we were talking a lot about like sometimes the tension that can be created when there's different voices in one player's life and that player has an expectation that the experience in one environment is supposed to happen in the next environment, right? I think that's kind of the direction we were going in that phone call. And so, I think like I look at it like, does each environment do enough honoring of the big picture to where there's connection across all the different environments, right? Like the game is unique in that individual development has to take place, but yet there has to come to a point where the individual development is executing inside of a team environment, right? And so, I think Nelson just referred to it a second ago, like if you're inside a facility and you're doing individual work inside that facility, and that's your experience for 3 months, but then you go to a high school practice and you're like, well, when do I get my 100 swings? And it's like, well, that 90-minute practice is probably set up for team competition, right? As opposed to individual swing development. And so if we look at it through just a direct lens of, hey, this is the only aspect of baseball that's vital, as opposed to looking at how they all intertwine together, then I think we miss the strengths of the different environments, right? And so I think those are big pieces. I think the other piece is like, does the environment teach a bunch of absolutes that probably aren't absolutes, that creates that person entering another environment and feeling like what's right for him is what's right for everybody else? I think that can create tension. I had an opportunity two winters ago. I was home on Christmas break in Tennessee, and the hitting coach for the Dodgers there, Turner, was in town visiting family, and they invited some of us over to hang out for a few hours. And the biggest takeaway there was like, if there were 9 hitters in the lineup, there were 9 guys who had 9 different reasons about why they, what made them go, like what made them click. And so there was so much individuality and uniqueness to it. And, can we believe that exists inside facility, inside of high school practice, inside of a college practice in my world, to where, we're not living and dying on hills that actually don't really apply to everybody.
No, yeah, that was awesome. What's something that you've kind of been able to do at the college level, especially when guys go home on winter break, or maybe they're freshmen and they've trained somewhere for 4 years out of high school, and they want to kind of go back and do that? How do you kind of blend the stuff that you guys talk about in a team environment versus what they want to do?
Well, I think inside of our, we have our team environment, but we have an hour of early work every day, as well as, post-practice times as well, where we meet with guys one-on-one. And so in our environment, we're trying to ask them more questions than make statements. We want to try to be a soundboard for that player and build their self-awareness. If we build their self-awareness, then truth has a place to land, right? And so it gives them an opportunity to kind of own the process in such a way that they're coachable, but they're not too coachable, if that makes sense. If you're in an environment where the coach just tells you what to do all the time and you just say yes and do it, the tendency is that player does not own the process. So when that player goes to another environment, let's say over Christmas break, that player is going to take information and just apply it, right? They don't have a filter to ask about how, when to apply. Is this for me? Because there's no self-awareness there. We want our guys to have self-awareness about what makes them tick, what do they think makes them successful, so we can hold them accountable not to get away from that during their development journey, right? And so when those kids go home on break, after let's say 4 to 5 months with us in the fall, hopefully there's enough of a foundation there where they're going to be themselves, in different environments. So if that makes sense.
Yeah, absolutely. And that's something, we talked about on day one, is how to be your own coach and why that's important, and building self-awareness and things like that. Ben, I think it's a great segue into kind of what I wanted to ask you. And I'll kind of I know you like to tell stories. So, I texted you, kind of what the topic was, kind of talking about your swing and individualization. But, the story that I remember was kind of that swing's not going to play here, kid. I'll you tell it way better, obviously. So I'll let you kind of handle it and go from there.
Yeah. I think when I was coming up, we didn't have a lot of coaches that were actually speaking, a lot of truth. More of it was, once I got into pro ball and started having success, and as I moved up every level, it was always kind of well, we'll see how that swing plays in Double A. And then, I did really well in Double A, and then when I finally got to the big leagues, just like Johansen's talking about, it's it was this overall kind of attitude that you kind of had to earn your stripes up there, and if you're really good, it was just that old school mentality. And there was a lot of negativity, I think, coming at me, just because I had kind of a different type of swing. And it's probably one of my biggest regrets, looking back, is that I kind of changed some things that I think what made my swing really work well, because of veterans and guys that I really respected telling me things like, hey, you'll never be able to hit a fastball in there. A fastball in Double A is different than the big leagues, and it's really not, but when you're a young 22, 23-year-old kid, you're going to listen to a guy that's like a Hall of Fame player that now is coached. And that's kind of what I did. And I kind of, I like to tell a story of I played first base. So I would ask my rookie year, all the best guys on the other team, hey man, how do you slow the game down, at first base, just in between pitches or something. And I remember Manny Ramirez was the first guy that I ever talked to about it. And he said, hey, meet me in the cage tomorrow at 1:00. And I was like, really? Because it was kind of I was just throwing a Hail Mary out there, because I had my hitting coach wasn't very good. And I'm trying to ask questions. And I show up the next day with Manny, and he just goes through his whole routine with me. And I just watch how much of an expert he was in what he did. He had a guy throwing and flipping to him, and how he didn't pull one ball almost the whole time for the first 15 minutes. Then he'd stop, and he'd talk to me about our pitcher that night that was going to pitch to him. And he explained what time he got to the field that day. He got to the field at noon. Everyone says Manny Ramirez was kind of a dumbass, but he was actually brilliant and super dedicated. He'd get there at noon, have his lunch, and he'd go through all the video of all the guys. This is back in 2002. And so he sat there and told me exactly what our pitcher was going to do to him. And he told me exactly what he was going to do. And I remember being like, man, how do you know all this? And he said, yeah, the guy pitching tonight, he never wants to throw me his fastball for a strike. He's going to nibble with his fastball. He's going to hang me a slider, and I'm not going to miss it. And I remember being like, just the confidence in what he did. And then he's like, come watch me take batting practice. I went and watched him take batting practice, and it was like, it was crazy. It looked like a jet stream shooting out of right center and center field and right field. And then, he really didn't pull the ball much. I remember noticing that. And then he gets in the game, and it's like, exactly what he said. The guy's just throwing fastballs off the plate. He gets like 2-2. The guy leaves a slider up. He hits it 500 feet to left field. He rounds first base and like winks at me as he's running around the bases, And I remember, talking to him the next time he's at first base, and I was like, Manny, when do you pull the ball? And he smiles at me, and he's like, in the game. He makes this joke. But like he's a great example, and he was one of the bunch of guys that I did the same thing with that year. And they all had this common thing. They said they all believed in what they were doing, like this ownership you guys are talking about, this buy-in. Like he knew that if he did his routine every day, that he had his plan, that he was going to be okay. Even if, he'd go up there sometimes and you'd watch him. He did it in like, I don't know if it was a World Series or a big playoff game. He took like 3 fastballs, struck out, lost the game, and everybody was booing him. And then the next day he comes and he wins the game and it's 2 homers. It's kind of like he was okay with, hey, I had a plan, it didn't work out. I mean, he believed in it that much. And so I think me as a young player, that's what it pushed me to do is, all right, what's my plan? What's my routine? It's kind of like what we do with the White Sox. We really try to individualize. Everyone has something different, like you were saying earlier, that makes them go. And it's like figuring that out and then just building them up and empowering them to, even if it might be a little bit wrong at first, we try to before I step on it, I want to see how confident the guy is in it. And I don't want to be like that coach that I had in big leagues that said, hey, that won't play up here, because I think every guy, there's such a strong connection with the mental part of it too, that if a guy believes in a certain thing and it works for him, it's like as coaches, we just got to figure out what that certain thing is and be there whenever he falls and try to build him back up.
Ben, that was awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that. So I think kind of, one kind of message I really wanted to get out here, especially for the players, because I know sometimes it can be frustrating and things aren't going your way and you want to blame the environment or you want to blame your coach or, and I hear it all the time, like he messed up my swing. Well, no one actually ever swung for you, as a player, from that aspect. So, if you're listening to all these guys from all these environments, like you should have the opportunity to like go ask questions and have like really, maybe call them mature conversations depending on your age and whatnot, but being confident enough to ask questions and also confident enough to stick to the routine that you feel like works for you, and also blending it between the environments in a way that you proactively try to blend the environments yourself if they're not being blended for you. And that kind of goes back to what we talked about day one and how to be your own coach and why it's important to understand that, Rich, you touched on it, being coachable, but not too coachable. If all of a sudden you hear one voice and you're really coachable there, and then you hear something polar opposite the next day and you do that, and then the next day, and all of a sudden you don't know your swing anymore. Or you don't know, your approach anymore. Everything's, you just got all this stuff kind of mixed together. So I think that was kind of one of the messages I really wanted to blend is taking control over your environments, but also understanding that like wherever you're at in those environments, like your coaches care about you. Like they stay up, they likely like lose sleep over over trying to make sure they get it right for you, and finding ways to integrate that and connect with them is gonna sometimes fall on you, because we can't always communicate, especially like even at the facility level. Like I can't communicate with every single high school coach. I mean, we try, we do our best, but like some high school coaches don't respond. Same thing at the college level when, same thing, Ben and I even talk about it, like trying to connect with the facilities guys have been at for 6 months. Hey, what are some cues that worked? How do we connect and how do we bridge this gap to make it all about the player and less about the environment, while blending the needs of the environment or the strengths of the environment, like Rich was talking about. So I think that's kind of a big takeaway for me, because I know on social media, it's like, even with travel ball, like the dad coaches, like I'm a dad and I coach, does that make me inherently like not educated? Like, no. Does that make, like a lot of coaches are going to grow up to be dads, right? And so it doesn't matter what environment it is, being able to take information from everybody blend it in a way that I think makes sense. And this kind of particular presentation was kind of designed to be player centric. So really quick, Rich, I know you got to jump off. You got a call. If anybody has like maybe one or two questions or maybe something to throw at us that we could talk about for the next 120 seconds, feel free to unmute yourself and bring it up.
I got one more thing. It's just something that I've noticed with some of the guys, because I know I was guilty of this, the two, being too coachable. Even training guys and talking to guys, just giving them common sense things to be able to how to talk to other people when they're talking about their swing. Like when guys come to me and say, yeah, I've got like 5 guys talking to me right now. And I'm like, well, dude, you got to take charge of your career. And this is going to be a hard lesson for you to learn. You got to be really confident in what you're doing. So when someone says, why do you do that? You need to know why. You need to have some absolutes. And as a coach, if I'm talking to you and you seem like you have some kind of grit about what you're doing, I'm not going to go in there and try to like give you advice. But if you go to a guy and go, hey, what do you got? What do you got? They're going to throw stuff at you and it's going to confuse you. So it's kind of like trying to get guys to just trying to teach them, I guess, because a lot of them aren't men yet. They haven't really grown up and had to really defend certain things, but they've had their dad always telling them what to do or whatever it is. But to be able to encourage that part of development in them, saying, all right, you've had success doing this, right? Yeah. And why did you have success doing that? And get them to like talk about it and understand it so that when they are in another environment and someone's trying to tweak their swing or mess with them, they can say, you know what, I do this because of this, and I have this track record to back it up. And then when they understand that they have that, it kind of empowers them, and I think it'll help guys from changing too much.
No, yeah, it's awesome. Yeah, it comes back down to belief and understanding why you're doing something and not just doing it. So, Nelson, you have any final thoughts for us?
Yeah, I was going to say, I mean, there's two key things that come into mind. It goes back to communication and like the motivation of individuals. And I think fundamentally, like every coach you encounter, regardless of the setting or environment, like wants you to get better. And a lot of times the things that we're talking about is just a matter of rhetoric. Like we're saying the same thing, we're just saying a little bit differently. It might not be received in the same way. And if you really want to take ownership of your career, of the process, then invite them to be in on the conversation together. Right. And I think got my kids in the background fighting. I think, as a young coach, that was one of the things where I would listen to the players and they'd say, hey, my high school coach is saying this, or this guy's saying that. And finally I'm like, listen, like, let's all hop on a conference call. When I'm at a convention, like, let's all sit down and talk about this. And what I came to find out is that we actually agreed a lot more than we disagreed. And it was just a matter of everybody pulling in the same direction. So I think that's the real message for the athletes here is know that everybody, I think, does have your best interest in mind. And make them a part of it. Like don't work them against each other, get them pulling in the same direction.
Absolutely. And Nelson, this is another one of your isms that I stole from you, but everybody has value. And, the more that we can extract that value and put them, and Rich, you talked about the strength of the environment, get the most out of the environment you can, and look for the value in each environment versus looking for something to complain about, no matter kind of what is upsetting you in that moment, being self-aware where you're at, and those things. So I'll kind of wrap that up. Didn't seem like there was any questions. If there are, feel free to throw them in the Slack or the chat. We could talk about them later. Nelson, Rich, Ben, thank you guys so much for your time. Really appreciate it. As always, guys, you guys were great. Thank you.
Thanks, Ryan.
Yeah. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Jovon, I'm going to kind of turn it over to you. You got a kind of a workout for our guys, right? Something they can kind of be active about and engage with us.
Yep, exactly. So I'm going to touch on a couple key points, kind of my big rocks before I get started, and then we'll get into the workout. Hopefully everybody's doing well during this time. I know it's really weird. It's definitely weird for me. As a collegiate strength and conditioning coach, I'm so used to, interacting with all of my coaches and my teams. So this is definitely strange. And I don't get to do virtual like training with my teams either. So it's definitely a weird time, but we're making it work. So some of the key points I want to start with is the first one is getting the most bang for your buck with each exercise. I think that's been something I've had to hone into. All the strength conditioning coaches know, we only get an hour, right? Our time's limited. So we have to get creative and find ways to, add a little twist to exercises that people might not have thought about in the past, right? Just so you can get more out of each exercise. When you got 20, 30 athletes in at once, that time goes by really fast. And I only get 3 hours of lifting per week in the off season. So the other 2 hours are for conditioning and energy system stuff. So that's my first point. Second point, basic is effective. I have a really good quote from a guy named Corey Schlesinger. He's formerly he was the head strength conditioning coach for men's basketball at Stanford. Now he's the head S&C coach for the Phoenix Suns. Really good strength coach. He always thinks outside the box, and he actually just said this. I found this from one of his posts from last week. Simplicity that is highly executed is always the best, most sustainable method. And that's exactly what we've tapped into and mastered, especially with my teams, our softball team. We hinge, we squat, unilateral stuff, we brace, super basic stuff. We never do anything gimmicky. And it's very effective for us, right? And it's quite frankly has made us, it's kept us healthy. And at the end of the day, as a strength conditioning coach, that should be my primary focus, right? Is to keep people healthy and make sure that we're performing at a high level, which we are. And then my last point is balance, proprioception, coordination. Those things drive my program. So basically trying to restore the qualities that we used to have when we were children and babies that we somewhere in our, creation we lost, right? Probably because of phones, being at computer screens all the time, and just, not utilizing those qualities. So if you think about it, rolling, crawling, skipping, those are basic prerequisites to athletic performance. And, a lot of college athletes aren't good at those things anymore. So a big, kind of one of my big rocks is making sure that we're good at skipping. It's a part of our warm up. We spend about 10 minutes skipping, going through different angles, putting our feet in different positions, because when you're in a sport, you're going to be in those positions. And we train those things. A lot of unilateral work, single leg stuff, knowing where your body is in space. So that those things drive our program. And like I said, they've kept us really, really healthy thus far, and we're going to continue to master those things. So without further ado, I'm going to get into the workout. I'll start with movement prep or warm up, be really quick. And then for the workout, I'm just going to do one set of each exercise, just to kind of give you an idea of what we do. Again, getting more bang for the buck. I'll show you guys different exercises. And that way it isn't kind of overkill. So we'll get one set of each. I'll head over here, and whoever wants to join me in the workout, feel free. Hopefully some of my softball players on here are joining in. Oh, I am at Iowa State right now. Forgot to mention that. So I'm the strength and conditioning coach at Iowa State. I work with softball, soccer, and men's and women's golf. So I got a good collection of different athletes that I work with on a regular basis. Can everybody see me? The nods? Okay, perfect. All right. So this first little segment is called my dynamic flex or dynamic flexibility. It's just a small little part of our warm-up. Every day in the warm-up, we have about a 16-minute warm-up, and this is just a small part of that. The first exercise is the world's greatest stretch. Some of you probably heard of it as Spider-Man or world's greatest. It truly is the world's greatest stretch because we're getting a little bit of everything. So you're going to take one big lunge forward. Okay, my back leg is going to be completely straight. I want to drive hip separation, okay? With the front foot, I'm going to drive forward into dorsiflexion. So I'm getting some ankle mobility. I'm getting a hip stretch here. My opposite hand is going to be even with my foot on the opposite side. From here, I'm going to go elbow to instep, dropping that elbow down to my foot, and then I'm going to rotate up through the spine as far as I can go. A lot of people mess up on this. When they go, they get to their end range, and then they finish with the shoulder. It's unnecessary movement. We're just putting more stress on the shoulder that doesn't have to happen, okay? So driving that back leg straight, elbow to instep. Who's ever following along? Let's get 3 rotations on each side. Elbow to instep, rotate. Some people might lack range of motion in the mid-back. This is a great exercise to work on that. From here, once you've done your 3 rotations, you're going to straddle your foot, point the toe up, and get a hamstring stretch. Hold for a 2 count, rock forward, drive dorsiflexion, hamstring, get 3 of those, forward, hamstring, and then switch them. So a lot of you might notice you'll have more range of motion on one side or the other. I have more range on my left side and my hip. So that's just one thing to be conscious of as an athlete when you're doing these drills. Focus on the side that you lack range on. Same rules apply for the mid-back. Same rules apply for the hamstring. If you feel tighter on one side, maybe hold a longer stretch on that side. So that's world's greatest stretch. Next one, inchworm push-up. So I'll start in the push-up position. Hands will be on outside the shoulders, here under the shoulders. I teach a posterior tilt of the pelvis. So one way to get glute activation, a lot of athletes don't know how to turn on their glutes. So any chance I get, I have them turn on their glutes. This is one perfect way to utilize that. Okay, so I'm in a push-up position. I'm going to separate my feet just so I have a solid base. So an anterior tilt is an arched pelvis, arched back, okay? Posterior is the opposite. Anterior, posterior, squeeze glutes like someone's going to smack you with a towel, okay? From here, I'm doing my push-up all the way down, and then I'm riding my heels back. From here, step, 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 until my feet are flat, and then I reverse it. Get 3 of those. Remember to tuck the pelvis before each rep. That's 1. Don't rush through the steps. And that is the inchworm push-up. Next one, peg. So peg position. So my base stance is both legs, slight bend in the knee. I'm in an athletic stance. My peg is a single leg base stance, okay? So I'm working on balance, coordination, all right? One big key point, I want you guys to focus on gripping the ground with your feet. So my big toe, my pinky toe, and my heel should create a tripod. Okay, so if you see me from the side, I'm creating an arch. I don't have very flat feet, but create an arch, okay? So big toe, small toe, and heel. Creating that tripod in my base stance, peg to knee hug. So I'm going up into a stretch, I'm extending that bottom leg. Peg, we're gonna get 3 of those. Each side, peg to knee hug. If your balance isn't being challenged, sink more into it. Another key point on this, you'll see a lot of athletes, they'll go into their peg position and everything will be forward. Okay, I don't want that. That means they're quad dominant, they're already good at that. So I want those glutes on. So think about sitting your hips back and loading that glute. Peg to knee hug. 3 on each side, switch it. Own that single leg stance for a 2 count. And then we're up into knee hug. Peg. Knee hug. Peg to knee hug. Next one is peg to quad stretch. So same exact peg position, single leg stance. I'm going to grab with the opposite hand and then reach towards the sky on the same side. Okay, key point with this, I don't want the knee flaring out. Keep that knee in tight. Keep everything braced and in close. peg, quad stretch. Peg to quad stretch. 3 on each side. So these are just basic examples of the balance, the coordination, right? The proprioception that I was talking about earlier. We train these things every day. They're part of our warm-up, pre-game warm-up, pre-practice warm-up, and they go a long way. Good. Next one, inverted hamstring. So I'm really big on single leg RDLs, hamstring work, because a lot of our athletes lack that. Everything is anterior, quad, 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 quad. They're already good at that. So I always do the opposite, okay? So inverted hamstring, all it is a single leg RDL with no weight. So I'm gonna start with a soft bend on my knees. From here, my thumbs are gonna be to the sky just for balance. From here, one leg's gonna be straight. I'm gonna dorsiflex, so pull my toes towards my shin. That keeps me rigid with my back leg. I'm gonna lower my chest towards the floor, keeping my hips squared, down and back up. Some key points with that. A lot of people, as they do their inverted hamstring or single leg RDL, they wanna open up, okay? They wanna open up the hip. We're not getting the activation that we need when we do that, all right? Another point, a lot of people wanna keep their leg bent. You can only go so far with your leg bent before your trunk starts to take over. That leads to low back pain, all right? So we want to focus on the bottom leg, yes, but the back leg, the one that isn't working, should be working. So we're going to get 3 on each side. Soft bend in the knee. Back leg's going to be completely straight. Dorsiflex. Once my hips stop going back, my trunk should stop going down towards the floor. Two. And 3, switch. One, focusing on that hip, staying squared. Once you get to that bottom position, it's easy to get more glute activation if you think about loading that glute, kind of like our peg position. So find that bottom position, load the glute, and then back up to the top. Still thinking about grabbing the ground, creating that tripod with your foot. Last one in the dynamic flex, counterbalance squat. Okay, so I teach a counterbalance squat. Most people just know it as a bodyweight squat. I teach counterbalance, one, because I want to be able to see, can my athletes keep their arms up for a set without dying, right? A lot of people can't. Another reason, I care about counterbalance because it'll allow me to see as the coach, can they keep their arms up without their chest falling, right? So I want to be in a comfortable squat stance. That's different for each person. That's why I always say comfortable squat stance. So some people are going to be under the hips. Some people are going to be a little bit wider with the toes pointed out. Whatever's comfortable for you. Me as the coach, I'm going to fix it if I see something terribly wrong, right? So comfortable squat stance. My thumbs are going to be to the sky for a counterbalance. I'm going to keep my arms shoulder height the whole time. We're going to squat straight down, still creating that tripod. Get to your bottommost position, own the bottom, and then fast to the top. We'll get 8 of those. Three, 4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. Okay. So that's the dynamic flexibility series. The next block we'll go to is the A block. So if you guys have weight, it could be laundry detergent. If you have a dumbbell, use a dumbbell. Grab a weight that you can hold in your hands. Okay, so I have some Tide. We're gonna do 1 set. I'll show you each exercise. We'll get all the way through it, and then I'll show the next exercise. So, goblet squat. We just did squat, so Our stance is exactly the same. Only difference is we're holding and bracing against whatever implement we're using. We're going to get one set of 10. We're also going to do a tempo. So one thing that I've utilized during this time, just to make exercises a little bit tougher at home, is adding a tempo to it. So we're going to do a 3-2-1-0 tempo. What that means is the 3 is the eccentric, so the way down. So I'm going to hold my implement, brace it against my body, comfortable squat stance. I'm going to go 3, 2, 1. The second number is 2. That's the isometric, the hold in the bottom. 1, 2. The next number is a 1. That's just fast to the top. 0 is rest between reps. We're not resting. We're just going. Okay? So we'll get 10 of those, one set. 3, 2, 1, 1, 2, 3, 2, 2, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 1, 2, 3, 2, 4, 1, 2, 3, 2, 5, 1, 2, 3, 2, 6, 1, 2, 3, 2, 7, 1, 2, 3, 2, 8, 1, 2, 3, 2, 9, 1, 2, 3, 2, 10, 1, 2. Next exercise, tall kneeling slot to press. So we do a lot of our exercises in the tall kneeling position as opposed to a half kneeling or base stance, just because it challenges your stability a little bit more, okay? So grab an implement, look something lighter than what you use for your goblet. I'm gonna use some tire foam, okay? So tall kneeling, all that means is both knees in the ground. If you look from the side, I'm also tucking my toes because I want you to be in a position where you can produce force. This isn't a strong position, okay? So tuck toes. Tall kneeling, slot to press. So my opposite hand, just go on the side just to keep it out of the way. I'm gonna get forward through my hips, okay? So I'm squeezing glutes, another opportunity to squeeze the glutes, activate the glutes. From here, I'm gonna start with my elbow forward and even with my shoulder, okay? The first movement, slot. So I'm gonna rotate up and kind of create an L. While I'm creating that L, I'm squeezing my scaps together. From here, I'm pressing straight up. Should feel like you're reaching, those lats should feel like they're stretching. And then back down, slot to press. Get 6 of those on each. Again, a lot of times we use a kettlebell with this. I love kettlebells just because I get to see how firm your wrist is. So we'll go on the back side of the forearm. If an athlete isn't creating tension, they're gonna be like this. This isn't a strong position. So I have them point their knuckles up towards the sky and then do the same exact drill. Slot to press. Key point, try not to rotate as you press it up. I don't want this, okay? We're working on core stability. Squeezing those scaps behind on the slot. Press straight up. 5, 6. Switch. Slot. Press. A lot of times on this, you'll notice one side you got more range of motion than the other. This side for me lacks a little bit of range, especially when I go straight up. 4, 5, 6. So that's tall kneeling slot to press. Next one. It's a core stability exercise and shoulder stability. So this one's called bear shoulder taps. So I'm going to be in a bear position. All the bear position is a quadruped position with my knees above the ground. Okay, so hands and knees, tucking toes, because I want to be in a position where I can produce force. Hands will be under the shoulders. Key point with this, the closer I bring my hands, the easier it's going to be to stabilize. So find that happy medium for you. Okay, so knees will be above the ground. Key points here, I don't want to rotate a ton, okay? I want to be able to stabilize. Knees above the ground. I'm holding, squeezing. 1, 2, and then switch. Okay? So there's minimal hip shift. That's what we're going for. Minimal hip shift, and we're not just rushing through it like this. Okay, so let's get 4 on each side. Should be bracing the core the entire time, like you're holding a plank. 1, 2. 1, 2. 1, 3. 1, 4. 1, 5. 1, 6. 1, 7. 1, 8. So that is bear shoulder taps. You can also do linear bear crawls, lateral bear crawls, forward, back. So that's a great position if you want to challenge shoulder stability, core stability. Next set, B block. One arm opposite, single leg RDL. This is a staple in our program. So we grab a weight. Okay, it can be detergent. It can be the same weight you use for goblet squat, whatever you want to use. Okay. So we're going to be in our inverted hamstring position, right? So if my right foot is down, the left arm's going to be holding the weight. Just because it's a little bit easier to balance when you have kind of that counterbalance, right? Contralateral, okay? So if my right foot's down, right arm's going to be out to the side for balance, and then I'm going to drive that left leg back. Control it to the bottom, shoulders set, keeping that hip squared, and then back up. Let's get 6 of those on each side. You can also manipulate the tempo. You can go a 4-second eccentric, a 3-second eccentric. We've done 6. Just depends on what type of stimulus you want to reach for. 4. Still gripping the ground. 5. 6. Switch. Soft bend in the knee. Back legs locked out. I'm keeping that hip squared. 1. 2. 3. 4. Another key point with this, whatever implement you're holding, make sure you're crushing that handle, okay? So we can get some hand grip out of it as well, more bang for the buck. 5. That's 1. And 6, okay? So that's one arm opposite, single leg RDL. Next one, single arm row supported. So I'm a huge fan of kettlebell, dumbbell exercises because we get to get some scapular movement. We do barbell exercises, but not a ton, simply because of that. I want to see how well your scaps can move, especially in a sport like softball, baseball, golf, right? A lot of times injuries happen because our scap does not know how to move, okay? So any opportunity I get to manipulate that, I do. So Straight on this side. One arm's going to be supported on the bench or a couch or whatever you have. Feet are going to be separated. Another opportunity to get some glute activation. I'm driving the knees out. My spine's going to be flat. I'm going to start pronated, like so. When I pull it up to my hip, I'm going to rotate to neutral. Squeeze 1, 2, and then back down. Let's get 8 of those. Eyes are down. Spine should be completely flat. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Good. Switch. 1, 2, 3. Another key point of this, at the very bottom, it should feel like you're reaching towards the ground, just so you can get some more range of motion. So reach that implement towards the ground, and then squeeze, pull it to your hip. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that's single arm supported row. Next one, tall kneeling peel off press. So if you have a band, that's perfect. One of these. If you have like a throwing band, that also works. If you don't have a band, you can also use a towel. So I have a towel attached to my entertainment center, okay? So I'm gonna be in a tall kneeling position. Same exact position as our slot to press. This exercise is great for bracing, okay? This band wants to pull me towards the band. I have to be able to resist that. So I'm gonna press right out in front, bracing the core, squeezing, 1, 2, and then pull it back to your chest. This is banded tall kneeling peel off press. 2, 3, getting through the hips again. My glutes are turned on. I'm tucking my toes. 4, 5 on each side. Then you'll switch it. I've got this band attached to a door handle. One, 2, 3, 4, 5. Again, you can use a towel for that. Get creative, whatever you have at your house. Next block, 2-arm towel reverse lunge. So this is one that I implemented since the quarantine. Had to get creative on different ways to use a slider to do hamstring stuff, to do split squats. So I have a Steph Curry towel, all my Steph Curry feints. Okay. Grab 2 implements if you have them, 2 of the same type of implement. So another opportunity that we utilize during our training with the softball team is whenever we can do any hand grip, we do it. Carries, our split squats. We usually go 2 implements, so 2 kettlebell, 2 dumbbell. We switch it up throughout the year. I've got 2 water jugs. So the back leg is going to be on the towel, front leg forward. I'm going to start in my 90-90 position. So back legs at 90, toes tucked, front legs at 90. There are different ways you can manipulate the shin angle. If you want a little more quad activation, drive dorsiflexion. If you have an athlete who has a knee issue, drive them back, get that shin a little more vertical. So there's different ways you can manipulate how they perform the exercise. I'm gonna have a little more forward shin angle. I don't have any knee issues, okay? So from here, we'll go straight up and then slow to the bottom. Let's go knee just above the ground. We don't want it resting, okay? And back up to the top. Let's get 8 each. 2. Another key point, We want our chest to match our shin angle, okay? That way we know we're in the correct position. 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Switch it. 90. Back to the top. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So that is towel reverse lunge. Next one, another shoulder. Single arm prone T. So I'm going to take my tire phone. I'm going to rest my head on the ground. Again, our scap should be able to move independently, right? So if we lack the range, injuries are going to start to happen. So this is another mobility drill, posterior shoulder exercise. That's great for our pitchers, for our softball players in general. Okay, so my one arm's going to be right out to the side, okay? Other arm's going to be completely extended. Head's going to be down. I'm going to squeeze up, stabilize at the top, squeeze, 1, 2, and then back down. I want to be able to do this without shrugging, okay? That's a compensation. We don't want shrug. So think shoulders down, and then we're just squeezing, making a T, and then back down to the ground. Let's get 12 on each side. One, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Switch. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. So that's single arm prone T. Last block, 2 more exercises. Transition. Last portion, we're gonna get some calf work and then another shoulder. Another staple in our program, taking care of the lower leg. It's huge. So one of my favorite exercises, super simple, 3-position calf raise. Okay, so I'm gonna set up against a wall at a 45-degree angle, kind of like we're starting to do like a wall drill. I'm gonna set up the arms, shoulder height. I'm gonna scoot my heels back to where they naturally come off the ground. From here, I'm gonna keep my toes forward. I'm gonna squeeze up on my toes, 1, 2, and then back down. So 15 of those forward, 2, 3, 4, 5. It should feel like once you go back down, you're reaching your heels towards the ground. So you're getting a full range of motion each time. 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Next position, we're going to turn them in. Turn them in so your big toes should be pointing towards each other. Same exact thing. Reach up and then drive those heels back down towards the floor. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. Last position, we're going to turn them out. So the heels will be facing towards each other. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15. So that's 3 position calf raise. Calf raises are also really good for the feet. Get those, you probably feel them all the way up through the bottom of your feet, your hamstrings, your glutes even. So great, super simple exercise to utilize. And it just takes care of our lower leg and our feet. Last exercise. With this one, I also like to use a kettlebell, okay? It's a bottoms up shoulder stabilization iso hollow hold. So if you don't have a kettlebell, you can use a shoe. Just balance the shoe on top of your knuckles. You can also kind of palm a water jug or detergent bottle, whatever you have. Okay, so I'm gonna be positioned on my back. I'm gonna grab my implement. And I'm gonna point it bottoms up. Again, if you have a kettlebell, this is ideal. But if not, it's okay. I'm gonna crush the handle. My other arm is gonna go behind my head, like I'm doing a dead bug. My feet are gonna be above the ground, so off of the ground. Then I'm dorsiflexing and holding. 20 seconds. 19, 18, 17. I'm focusing on stabilizing that bell, bracing the core. Okay, my quads are turned on, my entire body's under tension. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. Good. Switch it. Again. 20, 19, 18, 17, 16. I go arm behind the head just because I was experimenting with different positions one day. And I went behind the head. I was like, oh, that's really a challenge. So this is the toughest position when we go opposite arm above the head. 10, 9, 8, 7, 6, 5, 4, 3, 2, 1. So that is bottoms up shoulder stabilization hollow hold. Great for shoulder stability, posterior cuff strength, core strength, and that is the workout. If anybody has any questions, feel free to chime in. Wow, I'm sweating.
Yeah, man, good work, dude. Thanks for putting that together. Really appreciate your time and your effort there. That was awesome. So if you guys missed any of that, it's all been recorded. That'll be on our website later as well, or I guess you can look it up on YouTube too. Yeah, if you guys have questions, go ahead and throw them in the chat. We've got Cody Atkinson here, the hitting coordinator for the Texas Rangers. So he's been gracious enough to donate our time. He's got a really cool initiative too. He put it in the chat where he's kind of working on some different things. I'll let him kind of talk about that. That's his thing. But yeah, if you have questions, he'd put a link to basically where you can kind of see what's going on for tonight with Doug Ladden, some other Zoom stuff. And if you DM him, he'll get you the link. So Cody, I'll kind of turn it over to you. You got some hitting drills for us?
Yeah. First off, Jovon, that was cool, man. I would love to connect with you afterwards. That was super interesting for us because we have a movement prep and it's 9 different sets, and our guys have to do it every time before they hit ever. So they're going to do it 180 times this year. and same exact concepts, but you've come up with pretty unique ways to do them. Like big one for me, I pulled this up while you were talking because I wanted to share it. You talk about quad dominant, glute dominant. It's such a thing. I mean, especially in our sport. And this is just an example we use to show our guys of pretty quad dominant swing on the left and then a glute dominant swing on the right. And so I can't agree with you more. I love that you bring it up, and you have some unique ways to activate it because you're absolutely spot on. Athletes know how to use their quads. We need to activate the glutes, and the glutes are going to help us hit the brakes better in our swing. The glutes are going to help us stop rotation. They're going to help us stay on a line much better, and the quads just can't do that. So really good stuff, man. I really liked it. I'll share with you kind of what we have. It's like I said, same concepts. You hit all of them exactly the same. Just you have and that was awesome for me to see.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah, it's good stuff. I rolls really well right into it. Yeah, on the coaches versus COVID thing, guys, it's a fundraiser we're trying to raise 25,000. We're about 15,000 in right now, so we need about 10 more. Last week I did a Zoom session like this with Tim Hires, the Boston Red Sox hitting coach, and then Donnie Ecker, the San Francisco Giants hitting coach, and that was last Monday. This Monday we have private instruction, which is going to be highlighted by Doug Latta and a few other guys. Next week we have a player panel Monday at 4:00 that includes Tucker Barnhart and 5 other pros. And then the week after that, we have college coaches, which include Pat Bailey from Oregon State and Steve Sabins from West Virginia and a few other guys. So, but this is what I'm here to do. I think that what I have prepared for you guys is really, really goes in line with what Jovon just presented. And we'll pull this up. I think that let's say after you did his workout, after you did what he just had you doing, this, my internet, you guys, I know that this is kind of fuzzy for you guys right now. It's kind of choppy. When I do this, when my internet catches, it usually shows it a little bit better. So hopefully that happens. I'll try to pull back out of this and then go back in. Sometimes it takes time to load. These are pretty big files, but they usually share pretty good on Zoom. So we'll see, but I'll kind of talk about this. So let's just say after you just did his workout, you're at home, you have nothing. I know that I apologize that it's so choppy for you. What we actually might be able to do, let me try to do this for you guys because I want you to be able to see it. Let me see if I can't grab my screen and just show you guys this kind of one by one. Let's check this out. Sometimes we've done a ton of Zoom. I've been on this thing. I feel like I know it like the back of my hand now. And sometimes if you share it in different ways, it ends up working better. So let's go to this folder. So like I'm kind of getting at, if we have, just done that workout and we want to just get some kind of swing movement in, I think that this is some really good stuff that you could do. And so I think that looks like it's not as choppy for you guys. This is bottom hand walk-in throws with a sock frisbee. And so you can see here, I kind of created this little sock, and inside of it is just more socks. And so you tie this off at the end, and you can end up doing bottom hand throws. It would be really nice to have more room because you can see you get a lot of feedback by the flight of the sock, the direction of it. We want to end up with, a sock that we throw with our thumb down. So it ends up kind of going like this versus a sock that's kind of spinning like a frisbee horizontally. And so this is the bottom hand throws. And then this is just with one pair of socks. We like these as well. Again, if you got better distance, it's better. But we're just walking into these things. So for righties, it's right, left, toss. And what we like is basically if you throw the sock oppo, you're typically pretty pushy and getting away from yourself a little bit. If you yank the sock pull side, you're typically not hitting the brakes early enough. There's not a good enough decel. So we really like the feedback you get from throwing. And then this is just top hand walk-in throws with that same sock frisbee. And you're just kind of able to go through some movements. I think that the ticket to this thing is that anybody could do this. You could create it in any way if you have a wall and some socks or other stuff. And these are drills that we've kind of come up with that we're having our guys do daily. And this is walk-in throws with a garbage bag full of pillows and clothes. So we do a lot of med ball throws. We like the direction of it, like to see the ball. And so when you don't have a med ball, when you don't have a wall that could handle a med ball, you try to get as much weight as you can into a garbage bag and walk in, throw. The other thing we can do here that we like, and I'll kind of show you guys here. The other thing that we'll do that we really like on this is we'll actually go in different directions. And so we'll kind of go walk-in throws, throwing it oppo, and feel how much earlier we have to hit the brakes there. And then we'll go walk-in throws, throwing it pull side, and feel how we have to hit the brakes to be able to keep it fair, keep it from hooking. We'll try to find these real quick. I don't know if this will happen fast enough, but and then if any of you guys want this drill library, this is a drill library that, shoot, I've been kind of dumping stuff into for about 10 years. And I think it's got 200 something different drills. Probably none of them are mine. I just steal stuff. I think that the best coaches are the best thieves, right? So we've gotten really good at just stealing good stuff that other people are doing. But let's check this out. I think that it's going to be this one here. Let's see. Let me see if this plays well for you guys. I'm not sure. It's going to be over the internet. So, but maybe. Sometimes it's better over the internet than it is playing on here. So this is just kind of an example of how you could get direction out of this stuff. Let's see how good it plays. Yeah, kind of choppy, but here's med ball throws. If you could imagine, you know, and then I'm just kind of turning the bat that's underneath me. It's interesting. That's actually this bat right here, which is kind of funny. But now I'm going oppo, and I just want to make sure I'm not cheating with my stride. And actually releasing this thing, and then I'm gonna go pull side and make sure that I just get the good spin on this. And so that's something that you could take and do with this guy here, is kind of create a direction for it. Get in. There's only a few more, and then this is a water bucket drill. One of the drills we really like for decel. So typically what we do is we'll take a ball bucket and we'll put 3 plyo balls in there. And then we'll hit the brakes. And the whole thing is we're saying you're trying to get these to come out in the air as far towards the pitcher as you possibly can. And so we're trying to generate, we're trying to basically focus on force transmission over force production. I'm trying to transmit energy into the socks here and get them to go as hard into that wall as I could with direction. And it's interesting. It's a really cool drill. The way that drill looks when we do it, when we have equipment, I kind of wanted to make this stuff for you guys today as if you're home alone and you have access to absolutely nothing, because that is the reality for some of our guys that are stuck in some third world countries that have access to nothing. And you should see some of the videos I get from our guys that are at home coming up with the most creative ways to work. It's pretty cool. I don't know if this is going to open up quick enough, so we'll just move on. But I think I have one more for you. So again, this is that water bucket drill. I just took a stovetop pot, put a bunch of socks in it, and I'm just walking in and then making sure that I'm throwing these up the middle. Again, I just got to hit the brakes well. I think that you'll see that's a theme of what we believe in here, is the ability to decelerate trumps the ability to accelerate. And then this is the last one of just timing takes with a clip of a pitcher. You can connect this to your TV. If you have a TV that can connect to, a phone or a tablet or a laptop, HDMI cord or anything like that. What I have here, I know it's hard to see, but this is a clip of DeGrom throwing a pitch, and I'm just kind of moving with it. And one thing that we do with our guys is, based on to landing on the ground, we give them reference points. We talk about if they're going to go before pitch release. I think my connection's unstable, so I'm probably choppy right now. Sorry guys about that, but so we're going to actually give you a when to go. Go means it feels like, and get it down. It's a big thing you can do in this time, is if you can find any clips at all from get them in the batter's box, sit there and play with your timing and feel what it was like. And I think the biggest thing is when you get to the ground saying, okay, if I was early and fooled, would I be able to hit through spin? Would I have been able to make something happen, or am I lunging? Am I too much on my backside? Am I moving from balance to balance? Again, you just get so much out of this. There's so much out of this, but you got to be locked in pretty internally. So those are the drills I have, stuff that I wanted to share. It's just stuff that we're really promoting hard with our guys. And so I think, for the rest of it, I'll get that drill library link to Ryan and make sure he jumps that out to you guys. This is the other thing I believe in. No information in coaching is proprietary. Nothing that I own is owned by me. It's everybody's, because our job is really to grow the game, and ultimately we want to catch up to pitchers, right? Our job is to beat pitchers. Sorry if there's any pitchers in here, but we're trying to beat you guys. And so this is the thing, guys. I don't know if I'm right on any of this stuff, and I never will claim to be right, but I work really hard to try to develop good concepts that we believe in. And the thing for us is we're trying to just make sure that we're really strong in our beliefs. We've done a lot of homework to create our beliefs, but we're stronger in our curiosity, and we're actually stronger in finding better ways. And it's just like, I jump on here and I see Jovon, and I'm like, dude, this guy's got some better ways to do things than that we're trying to do. And so stolen, immediately stealing stuff that guy's doing because it's legit. So I think for me, I know that I talked to Ryan about opening it up for Q&A. Any questions guys have for me? Like I said, I don't know if I'm right. I just put a lot of work into this thing, and I've been doing it for actually quite some time, even for my age. So.
Cody, that was awesome. That was really creative ways to kind of get a lot of work done. It's kind of been the theme of these calls is be creative and find ways to accomplish basically how to mimic drills that we've already been doing in other ways where we don't have space or equipment, right? Some of that were dry swings. Some of it were some of it was creating our own overload underload kind of ideas and concepts. This is now the second professional coach that's been on here that has talked to you guys about finding video of a pitcher and working on your timing. So I think that's probably something, we'll talk about that on Friday, kind of all the similar themes. None of us have gotten together and said hey, this is the theme. I want to talk about this. It's been hey, there's all this information out there, all these really smart dudes, kind of like he was talking about in terms of sharing information, hey, just give us what you got. And there's been a lot of things that have kind of came up again and again and again. And I think that's pretty cool, especially over kind of 15 classes, we're kind of putting together on here. So on Friday, I'll kind of make a note of all those things that have come up more than once, 3 times, 4 times. And those are probably some things that you guys might want to do, and really, really consider. Cause like he said too, we don't know if we're right, but if, these concepts are believed by a lot of people.
Yeah. I think it's if we go back to this too, just so you guys know, I'm wearing the same shirt right now. I literally started doing these videos at noon Pacific time. So it was 2:00 your guys' time. And I'm here talking to you about it an hour later. Cause I was funny. I was going on my run and I had some stuff set up I was going to show you, but it's all stuff done at a cage. And I'm like, you know what? I'm just going to make a bunch of videos. So I legit got this sock ready, grabbed this bag, got this little stovetop ready, pulled this clip up, and it probably took me all of 20 to 25 minutes to get the whole setup done. It's not hard. I think that a lot of times people just kind of get, I don't want to say relaxed, but there's not a sense of urgency to development right now because there's no answer or there's no test at the end of the day, right? You don't have to get ready at 7:00 and potentially get beat by a pitcher. And so it's easy to kind of take a step back and relax a little too much. And the thing about it is and this is kind of what we try to explain to our guys, this time right now is a gift. This is an opportunity. Now, not what's going on in the world. That sucks. It's horrible. But at the end of the day, that's not under our control. No player, no coach can control what's going on in the world. We can control what we do today. And so I think the focus for our guys is no matter bad, good, in between, every single thing in life is an opportunity. And this suspension from play is an opportunity right now. And when we all start playing again, it's going to be very, very apparent who made themselves better. both coaches and players. Who got better? Who all of a sudden was a different animal because of this suspension. And I firmly believe, from our end, I could say for, Big 12 softball or Pac-10, Pac-12 baseball or professional baseball, whatever, that someone's going to win a championship because of what they did in this break. I believe that. Someone's going to win a World Series in 3 or 4 years because the things that they were doing with their minor league system during this break, right? Someone's going to win, a Big 12 championship next year because of the things that they were doing in this break, and other teams are going to fall off. And so it's like, who are you? Like, which one are you? Are you the person that's going to say, hey, the world is what it is right now, but you know what I can do is I can make socks, put them into a big sock. I can get a pot. I can get a garbage bag and fill it up with clothes, and I can freaking get better at this thing because I don't need all the fancy equipment just to get better. You guys, you don't need it. Just get it done. I'm telling you, you should see some of the stuff our guys, in the DR or in Cuba or Puerto Rico are doing right now. It's like, you're like, man, that's unbelievable. It's all about having drive throughout this whole thing, seeing light at the end of the tunnel.
Awesome, Cody. I really appreciate that. Appreciate your time. If anybody has any questions, just go ahead and unmute yourself and just go that way. That way it won't necessarily take a lot of time typing it in the chat and from there. So if you guys have any questions for going once, going twice.
I'll jump in. Cody, so what are your top 2-3 beliefs that you believe good hitters need to be successful? What are like common traits?
Balance is where it all comes down to. I mean, I go to balance and stability, being able to hold stability and have balance, because both of those increase the visual system a lot and help you make better decisions moving from balance to balance. Here, I'll kind of show you this here. I don't know how well this is going to work, but I have a clip that shows this. But if I'm starting to look at hitters and go, all right, like this is what you need to do, then what I'm doing is I'm saying you have to move from balance to balance with as little, deviation from balance as possible, and with as much. Sorry, I got a lot of stuff on here. With as much stability as possible as well. And I'll kind of show this to you here, but this has kind of been proven, at least in what we've looked at. This is my vision and timing stuff that I do. So check this out. Like I said, nothing in coaching is proprietary. So here's some of my life's work. So check this out. I'll pull this up. We'll see how well this plays. I hope it plays good, but no, it's not playing too good. But you can kind of see what I say here. Maintaining balance and stability allows full brain power to be used for vision. And we have a lot of examples of this. Can go over and over and over and over again. I'm sorry it's not playing better. It's funny, I presented this Thursday and it played a lot better. But the thing that happens is so you think about it like this. When we were created a long time ago, our system was created to survive. So our eyes, what we saw, we had to like run from tigers and lions and bears and stuff, right? So we were very, very in tune to the external, and the internal just got created and done for subconscious. And the thing that's crazy about it is our subconscious, our internal system, actually it's called bits. It works with 10 million bits. And then our conscious system, so like our thought that we think in our head, works with 50 bits. So our subconscious system inside us, the thing that's pumping your blood right now, pumping your heart, the thing that is, controlling all your organs and everything is that much stronger than this self one in here. In inner game of tennis, it's called self one, self two. And so one thing that we know is that if there's any imbalance, then what happens in your brain is you're focused on that imbalance. So if I'm too much on my backside, and right now I'm supposed to be seeing the pitch. So if I'm leaned way back on my backside, and this is the moment in time where I'm going to back out of this, but this is the moment in time where I should be visualizing, or I should be recognizing what pitch is coming. This is a big problem to have in hitting because now in the moment, let me find this too. This will be some good stuff. So this is all my vision stuff, but in the moment that I'm trying to recognize, so check this out. Let's see. So if I have imbalance or instability in this window in here, if there's any imbalance or instability, what happens in my brain is that my brain is focused a lot internally. The system has to go, shoot, my back ankle is a little unstable. Let me fix that. And so you just think about, while I'm trying to recognize a pitch, that's really tough. Recognition of pitches is extremely tough, especially with tunneling. If I have an issue in my move, if I have an issue in my mechanics, in terms of losing balance or stability, my visual system doesn't work, right? And so the thing we know is that the brain always wants homeostasis, man. Like, it wants equilibrium. It wants to be calm and relaxed and balanced. And so for us, if we make a move from balance to balance and we hold stability, and there's a stable foundation for us, we're getting the most out of our visual system, and it's the key to vision. And so if anybody ever says, hey, like, what's the key for me in hitting? You have to start with balance and stability in the move. And we don't really talk swings much. We kind of just talk moves. We want your move to the ground to be as optimal as it possibly can. Because, as you look at this thing, let me see. I actually pulled up some of these clips too. Let me pull up this Lindor one. This is the actual clip on Baseball Savant, and then this is Lindor move. So we just want to say we're focused on our guys in this window here. I think too many people get so focused on the swing. And what we know about athletes and how they move is that if they get to the ground right, and they're kind of optimized to rotate, they're in the cleanest position to rotate in the ground, path's going to be pretty good. The swing's going to be pretty good. And so we look before and we go, okay, what are you doing before the swing happens? That's allowing you to make best decisions, allowing you to see things really, really well. It's kind of what we tend to focus on. It's why we do a lot of looking at what this little window here, from release to decision point, that's what this is. What are you doing? Are you moving in balance? Is there any lack of stability? After I go from there, I go to path and adjustability, but I'm telling you, man, I think that balance and stability leads to good path and good adjustability. It ends up being what takes you there. So balance and stability.
Was that the first third like Donnie was talking about last week?
Yeah. This is a lot of stuff that that Donnie and I have worked real hard to try to figure out.
Also, would you be willing to share your pre-swinging routine or prep routine before you guys did?
The movement prep? I think I can share one of them. I definitely.
I don't know what you're allowed to share or not.
Yeah. This is I couldn't share our Rangers one. We're pretty proud of it, and it's definitely something we built internally. It took us a couple months this off season to build it out. And if it was all me and I did it all by myself, I'd be like, dude, have it. I don't care. But our strength and conditioning coordinator put a ton of work into it, a ton of work. And it's really his baby. And so I don't feel comfortable sharing what he has. But I will say, like, I have one that I did when I was coaching college ball at WVU and at UTRGV that I could totally share with you. And it's basically the same thing. So.
Awesome. Thank you.
Yeah.
Awesome. So yeah, that's another thing too, is not just going to hit. I mean, you guys have now heard a lot about different movement prep styles. You saw Jovon's workout today. Cody's talking about it. Some other coaches have showed you. You had a pro guy on here talk about what he does from his mobility and kind of movement prep before he starts swinging. So making sure you guys have something that kind of fits your needs. Cody, how individualized is your movement prep from that aspect? Is it more like kind of menu based on kind of maybe some of the assessments that you guys are doing, or is it more of just a general kind of org philosophy? If you can, I don't know if you're able to talk about that or not.
Yeah. No, I mean, this is philosophical. And Jim, I know Jim's in here too, and he could speak to it because he's seen what we do. He's one of our most talented hitting coaches that we have. I know he's in on this call, but what we try to do. So when we aimed at creating movement prep, it was like, okay, let's make 120 different ones. Well, that's not possible. And so kind of what we did was try to make sure that there was options. And so what we've done is there's 9 steps to our movement prep. We're trying to activate ankles. We're trying to activate hips. We're trying to activate glutes. We're trying to activate core. We're trying to activate T-spine rotation and lateral flexion. We're trying to activate shoulders, and we're trying to activate rotational deceleration, and we're trying to activate path. And so within all of those things, they have like 4 or 5 options. So it's not just, hey, this is the ankle mobilizer, or hey, this is the central nervous system activation, or hey, this is the, there's not one thing. And kind of what we banked on was the fact that players were going to play around with all of the types. This is all of the hip activations. Which one ends up working for me the best is this one. Which one I end up liking the most is that one, or whatever. And then we banked on coaches kind of being there for players to say, hey, I think you should do this one more, or I think you should do that one more, or I think this one helps you more, or whatever it is. And so, very much individualized. And this is the tough task with any program. I know that, our organization is pretty complex, right? Because there's 120 guys and there's 8 different affiliates. But it's the same thing that you're talking about doing in college, in a high school program, whatever is you're trying to implement universals. So movement prep is a universal, but you have to individualize within those universal implements. So when you implement concepts or anything like that, like batting practice, right? Like, okay, we're implementing batting practice. Okay, well, we need to allow for freedom of individuality within that. And that's why, for us is the first round of BP is different for every single person across the board, because they're doing their daily routine in the first round, right? So they're doing what they should be doing for their swing. And that's where we try to stick, is that any universal concept we have, any, type of training we have, we want there to be the freedom for players to individualize within that. And just opens up a line of communication for coaches to guide kind of what they end up doing.
Awesome. Thanks for sharing that. I really appreciate it. We'll go questions. Cody, I want to be respectful of your time too. I know we're going over here. Really appreciate being generous and donating your time and making some videos for us and sharing them. Yeah. So, we'd love to stay in touch and, connect with you. I'll be on the call hopefully later tonight as well. So, and that's make sure if you guys didn't check that out, make sure you guys look in the chat. That's something that'll be pretty cool. It's for a really good cause too, and you'll get a lot of great information. So, all right. Well, hey, I really appreciate it, guys. Cody, thank you. And we'll kind of end it there. Stop it there.
Awesome, guys. Thank you. I appreciate the time.
Awesome. Thanks, Cody. And just kind of like we normally do, I'll kind of end it with a quick devotional too. So today's kind of talks about what we talked about at the very beginning. Philippians 2:13 through 15. And just kind of a little excerpt out of that is, do everything without complaining and arguing so that no one can criticize you. And I think that's, a really good message when you're talking about going from environment to environment. Is a lot of times, I've heard it so often, that coach ruined my swing. He won't let me, hit off a machine. So, I'm worse, or he doesn't let me do my routine, whatever it is on that aspect. And I think it's important that, just like we talked about, it's important to be your own coach, but it's also important to go and find the positives and the silver linings within each environment, and be able to have conversations and understand that when you ask for something, you might not always get it. There might be some other reason or some other red tape or some other roadblock that a coach can't provide every single thing that you want out of the environment. Doesn't mean he doesn't want to think about it or get creative. There's certainly things that guys have asked me for that I've tried to figure out, even this spring. Wasn't necessarily perfect, but it was something where be able to go like, hey, like, what do you want to get out of this, and go up the ladder, and figure out where those roadblocks are and how we could kind of make it work. And again, it's not always perfect. It's if you want a training environment like the off season, spring training is not going to be that way. If you want something that's, like a more of a team environment where, you're constantly competing, your off season might not be that way at your facility. But the interesting part about facilities though, is you can kind of pick where you want to go in the environment you want to be. Once you get on the team, you're kind of subject to whatever that team has, or that program has, or that org has, from that aspect. And I think going about it with a positive attitude and not complaining, or trying to argue, but rather being open-minded, but also, being strong in your beliefs, that's a tough balance, right? And I think that's where that self-awareness comes into play. Like, we're giving you two polar opposite like concepts. Hey, be really, really strong in your beliefs, but be open-minded, right? And so I think the blend of that, and that's typically where a lot of success happens, is in the middle, on that side of things, and being able to go from there. So that's all I got for today. And we'll catch you guys next time. Thanks for joining.